Estranged fathers of Reddit, why did you leave your family? My wife asked for a divorce out of the blue. We had 2 daughters. She later used both of them as pawns in custody hearings. Even though I was up to date on all of my child custody payments, I was still refused visitation most times with my daughters, and the court never would intervene. Later on, my oldest was killed, and her mother later used her funeral to make money via online donations. We both split the cost for her final arrangements, and said horrible and untrue things about me to my youngest daughter. Unfortunately, my only remaining daughter believes everything that her mother has told her about me. For a few years I sent birthday and Christmas presents to her mother's address, and her mother would repackage them and give them to our daughter, from Mom. The last I heard, my daughter is married and has a child of her own. Not only do I not know how to get a hold of her, her mother will refuse any questions I have on how to get a hold of her. Her mother states, if she wants to get a hold of you, she will. At the time my oldest daughter was killed, she had 2 children. I have a granddaughter and a grandson, both by different fathers from different relationships. My granddaughter was taken away the day of my daughter's funeral service, and I have not seen or heard from her since. And now I only have contact with my grandson, of which I am eternally grateful. Needless to say, the American court system is not favored in favor of fathers. I have known men and women who have had kids only to find out too late they never should have. They never bonded with their kids or had doubts they were the father. Maybe it is better for them to walk away rather than stay and be emotionally or physically abusive. My dad literally left to get milk and never came back. Then never reached out to communicate for 9 years or so, because me staying in contact with a parent that does not live with me would be awkward. At least I know where I get my autism from. When I was a teen, my dad took a job in another state. 1 year later, he divorced my mom. From what I gathered, he wanted to upgrade his whole life. New career, new lifestyle, new wife. I didn't hear from him until I was well into my 20s. His excuse was that my mom blocked him from contacting me. It's unlikely that that's true, but if it were, why didn't he fight harder to reach me? If he really loved me like he said he did, wouldn't he have moved heaven and hell to be with me? I'm okay now, but for a while I felt less than, like I wasn't worth fighting for. I'm sorry. I know OP specifically asked for fathers to tell their stories, but I just wanted to share my own story. Back in the day there was no soy, almond, cashew, or oat milk, so I had to devote my time, money, and research on making it available for everyone. You're welcome. I met my father when I was 15. A few months later he borrowed $50 off me, and the next day I saw him fueling up at the service station. He was driving interstate and not coming back. I saw him again when I was 18 and lived in the same town as him until last year. 20 years. In December I drove out of town with my 7-year-old daughter. I'm a sole parent, and won't be returning. I didn't tell him I was leaving 'cause he wouldn't care anyway. He doesn't even know my kid's name. Really nasty divorce, and my wife and her family were using my son to hurt me. Getting him to call me and say awful things. Using our visitations to cause huge drama that always had him in tears and very upset. Put up with this weekly for years until it started to have serious negative impact on his health and learning abilities. Couldn't focus, etc. Wife and family were not going to change, and I had to look at it realistically. Was my 8 hours a week seeing him upset worth this much damage to him? It wasn't, and to continue pushing it was selfish, so I walked away from it all. Took us about 16 years of email contact before we actually really got back in contact 2 years ago, and I'm hoping to meet him in person this year. To him I just stopped showing up, but thankfully he understood the situation as he has been through. Similar with his mom and his girlfriend. Divorce can be brutal. I have not left, but I know why I would. I love my wife dearly. I love my Lo with my whole heart. If my wife chased me off, I would have nothing to do but leave. Everyone has a threshold, but for me, if my presence was hurting my daughter, I would leave. If my wife held my daughter as ransom in a divorce hearing, I would leave. Sometimes leaving is the only thing a loving father can legally do to protect his child. Ren. Especially in a society where judges make up their minds in favor of the mother before the custody hearing, and fathers are automatically at a financial and legal disadvantage. Abandonment isn't always abandonment to the children. As soon as you are a consenting adult, reach out to your other parent, find information, and make your own decisions. Listen more than talk, and love in the face of bitterness. Got a new job and was traveling a lot. Basically home every second weekend, so away 12 days. Home for 2. Met a girl. Hit it off one weekend after being introduced through friends. Spoke for hours on the phone while I was away over the first 2 months and hung out a lot on the days I was home. Decided we wanted to get intimate and both got tested etc. beforehand. She told me she can't get pregnant. Told me the whole story. Looking at adopting later in life. Next weekend home we had sex. Let's just say I either have superhuman sperm or she was lying. We had basically spent 8 days together. Many more talking on the phone. And she automatically said she was 100% keeping the baby. I stayed with her for 2 years. Walking away was the hardest thing I've done. Not her, but my daughter. I paid child support up until my daughter turned 18 and saw her regularly. We have a great relationship and now live in the same city again. I never loved the mother. And after those 2 years I knew I never would.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.